Welcome. You're watching the video Anatomy of a Statute Part 2, Annotated Code Sections. This video is for Western State College of Law, course number MC6000. If you haven't already watched the video Anatomy of a Statute Part 1, Unannotated Code Sections, please watch that video before you watch this one. That first video will provide you with some useful background and context to what we'll be talking about in this video. So what will we be talking about in this video? First, we're going to talk about where you can find annotated code sections. Second, we're going to explain what annotations are and look at particular parts of an annotated code section, focusing primarily on the annotations themselves. So, first, where can you find annotated code sections? Remember from the first video when we looked at a federal statute and a state statute? We looked at unannotated versions of both, and they were available for free online on government websites. Annotated code sections, however, are not available for free. The two publishers of annotated code sections are West and Lexis. Both West and Lexis publish annotated code sections for state codes and for federal statutes. They publish them in print, and they also make them available electronically. West makes them available electronically on their proprietary database, Westlaw Next, and Lexis makes them available on their proprietary database, Lexis Advance. Now, in this video, we're going to be using Westlaw Next, but that's not to say that we are endorsing Westlaw Next over Lexis Advance. You can just as easily use Lexis Advance to research annotated code sections. So, one thing we also want to note is that for this course, we recommend that you do your research using these proprietary databases instead of trying to find the law for free online, even though that's what you might be doing once you graduate from the program. The reason for that is we want you to see the power and the benefit of using these proprietary databases such as Westlaw Next and Lexis Advance, and just to serve basic pedagogical reasons where you'll be learning more when you're using these robust databases than if you're just trying to search for law for free online. So now let's talk about what are annotations. Annotations are editorial content. They're written by the editors at West and Lexis. And what they do is they give you references to other sources that help explain the statute you're looking at or help you understand the statute you're looking at. We're going to look at specific types of annotations shortly, but basically what annotations do is they'll put a given code section, a given statute, into the context of the broader law as a whole. So you can kind of see where it fits and kind of understand how it might interact with other laws. So right here in this document tab, we're looking at the text of a federal statute. This is 29 U.S.C. Section 623, the same federal statute that we looked at in the unannotated code sections video. Now, one thing I want to note is that this citation here is 29 U.S.C.A. Section 623, USCA standing for United States Code Annotated. This is the annotated code version of 29 U.S.C. 623. However, the actual text of the law, the language of the law itself, which is here from subsection A all the way down through subsection M, this is the same as the text of the law here that we saw in the unannotated version. And you can compare the two, and you'll see that it's the same. Similarly, right here, the source law or the source credits or history line, it's going to be the same as in the unannotated version here. So now, again, to get the actual language or text of the statute, we want to be in the document tab. If you recall here in the unannotated code section, there were these notes after the source law, the references in text, amendments, etc. While these might seem like they're annotations, they're actually not what we consider annotations. And the reason is because annotations are supposed to point you to other resources you can consult to better understand the statute. What these notes do, although these are also generally written by editors, these notes more just describe this particular statute and give you more information on it, but they don't point you to other sources you can consult, which is what annotations do when at least the annotations we mean when we talk about an annotated code section. So what are these annotations? Well, probably one of the more common annotations are right here, notes of decisions in this tab. Notes of decisions basically are references to head notes, and we'll explain head notes more in week 4 when we talk about case law research. But they're going to give references to head notes, which are discrete points of law that are found in cases. So think of notes of decisions as pointing you to cases that talk about this statute. Now, this number in parentheses, this 2,656, this is telling you that there are 2,656 notes of decisions for this particular code section, 29 USC section 623. When there are this many, or when there are just a lot of notes of decisions, they'll be broken down topically, so you can sort of look specifically to the question you might have about this statute. And then, if you wanted to know something about how this particular statute pertains to retirement and pension plans, you might want to click here and narrow it further to see how courts have interpreted this particular statute in regards to these specific topics. Here, you'll see the actual notes of decisions themselves, and these are all hyperlinks, so you can actually click on the case to read the case directly and look at the particular head note and the actual section of the case where they discuss the statute. One thing I just want to highlight is this number here, notes of decisions, 2,656. This number is actually for the notes of decisions, not necessarily to the number of cases. And the reason is any given case can have more than one note of decision. And so that number doesn't necessarily mean there are 2,656 separate cases. It just means that there are 2,656 of these head notes here. So that's one of the most useful, most important annotations that you'll find in an annotated code section. And that is the notes of decisions, because it's going to give you references to a lot of cases that interpreted or discussed this statute, and specifically what those points of law are. Now, remember these notes after the source law in the unannotated code section, these references and text, amendments, etc. You can also find those in an annotated code section under this history tab in Westlaw Next, specifically editors and revisers notes. Here, you can look at references and text, amendments, etc. Other aspects of this history tab are, you probably won't need to use them as much. They're for researchers who want to do more legislative history research. And the reasons you might do that is if you want to try to figure out what Congress meant by something, or to try to divine Congress's intent. This tab and legislative history research in general is probably going to be conducted more by practicing attorneys. So let's take a look at this tab, citing references, to see more annotations. Again, these are going to be other sources that discuss, cite, or talk about this particular code section, this particular statute, 29 USC section 623. Here, there's 26,097 citing references. That's a lot. That is a ton. Now, you can find specific types of citing references if you want here. Cases, there's 10,046. We'll watch it load, and you can drill down. Statutes, regulations, administrative decisions, secondary sources, etc. You can drill down, and within the results that you find, you can search here. So if you want to find secondary sources that have to do with this code section, there's 3,505. You can look at American Law Reports articles or / annotations. You can look at law review articles, journals, other types of secondary sources. These look like they'll include treatises and practice guides. So in citing references, there are basically anything that's any source, be it another law or a secondary source, that cited this statute or discussed it, you can find here. Finally, we'll look at this tab, Context and Analysis. This will give you, one, cross-references. Cross-references are references to other statutes that you might want to look at if you're looking at this statute other potentially relevant code sections. Law review commentaries are articles and law reviews that will discuss this particular code section. Library references here will give you the topic and key numbers, and we'll discuss topic and key numbers a little more in week 4 when we talk about case law research. It also will provide you references to CJS entries. CJS stands for Corpus Juris Secundum, which is a common legal encyclopedia, and legal encyclopedias are, as you know, secondary sources. This will also point you to ALR entries or other encyclopedias such as American Jurisprudence. Also, forms. Now, when you practice law, a lot of times you'll have to use forms. And sometimes you want to get sample forms that might be relevant to any given code section. And when you click on the forms link here, this will provide you with references to specific chapters or sections in secondary sources that have sample forms for you. Finally, treatises and practice aids are, again, a very useful type of secondary source, generally written by practitioners or scholars, and these will point you to particular treatises and practice aids and specific chapters or sections within those treatises and practice aids that discuss this particular code section. And again, these are actually the annotations are all hyperlinks, so you can click on them and be taken directly to that section that's relevant to you and read it. So I'm hoping you're getting an appreciation of how powerful annotations are and why when you're doing legal research, statutory legal research, you want to do it in an annotated code instead of an unannotated code. Now, the same thing is true for state statutes. If we look here, we're looking at Rhode Island General Law, Section 12-5-3. This is the same one we looked at in video 1 on unannotated code sections. As you can see here in the document tab, the actual language of the statute and the source law history line is going to be the same as with the unannotated code section. There are fewer annotations here. There's only 23 notes of decisions, only 25 citing references, and only 4 items in the context and analysis. But just because there's fewer doesn't mean that they're not there. You can still use these just as you use the ones for the federal statute. It's just that there were many, many more of them in the federal statute. So the takeaway from this video is annotations in an annotated code section are very powerful, and they're very useful for when you're doing research. We hope that you use these annotations when you do your research instead of using the free unannotated code sections online. It's for pedagogical reasons, so you can learn to use these annotations, you can learn what these annotations do, but once you graduate from the program, if you don't have access to annotated codes, certainly if you just want the language of the statutes, unannotated code sections work very, very well for that. Thank you very much for watching this video.